Hello, this is your lady life with Bev Brown. Good night, good night. This is the news coming straight to you out of the country of Jamaica. And this is a sad newscast, as I am here to inform you of this sad news that occurred this morning overseas. As you watch, you will see the happenings. So my condolences to the parent who lost a child or children, and to family of the teacher who have lost her life, and to all those who are in the hospital. I am praying for them. Life with Bev Brown, praying for them, and I know the whole world, the whole nations are praying for all the students that have been hurt, and for those who wasn't hurt but feel cycled differently. Yes, they are hurting because they have witnessed their classmate being hurt and so on, so it affect them terrible. So I'm here. Please watch the video and you'll see the happenings. Blessings. This is your news reporter, live and direct from Jamaica. Life with Bev Brown. Thank you for listening and for watching.
And thanking you for being here, but under these circumstances, I'll just give you a minute to start your live streams or do whatever you need to do. And while you're doing that, my name is Chief Sean Barnes, SHONBARNES. I'm currently the Chief of Police for the Madison Police Department. I'll be providing a brief update of the school shooting that we had today in Madison. There's some information that we're not going to release because it's still an ever-evolving situation. You'll hear from some of our representatives from our city and from our county. And behind me are a lot of people who came together today to make sure that the day ended well and that everyone else was safe. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and start my remarks. Today truly is a sad day for Madison and for our country. It is a day that I believe will live in our collective minds for a very, very long time. Here are the details. Today at 10:57 a.m., our team was called to the Abundant Life Christian School in reference to an active shooter. We know that 3 people are dead, including the suspect shooter. We know that the suspect shooter was a teenage student who attended the school. At this time, we're not releasing the age or gender of the student or any other identifying remarks about the student. 2 other people have died. That died were a teacher and a teenage student. 6 other people were injured. 2 students are now in critical condition in the hospital, and these injuries are considered life-threatening injuries. 4 students are also at other area hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. But these are just the physical injuries that we know about. We know that this was the middle of the day, of a school day, and so there will be other injuries that we'll have to face for a very, very long time. And we're going to do everything we can as a community to heal those injuries as well. Many of you have asked me about the why of this. Why did this happen? What do we know? What was the motivation? I do not know. But I will tell you this, our detectives are working hard in the investigative process to find out as many answers as we can so that we can further prevent these things from happening, not only in this community, but in other communities around our country. I think we can all agree that enough is enough. And we have to come together to do everything we can to support our students, to prevent press conferences like these from happening again and again and again. The school building itself is clear. We have cleared the school. There's no other threats or danger to the community. We're in the process now of what we call reunification. And what that simply means is making sure that every student that was in the school is present and accounted for and returned to their loved ones. This usually takes a while, but we have practiced unfortunately, and practice. And that's why we're able to reunify students with their parents within hours of a school shooting. The reunification is taking place at the Dean Clinic on Stoughton Road, and I certainly thank them for their help. Again, we need our public to find an alternate route. If that is your normal way home as we get closer to the end of the day, please be patient or find another route home. We're currently processing the scene. We're interviewing those who may have been witnesses, and we're obtaining search warrants to get additional information. And lastly, I want to just say thank you to everyone who's standing behind me, the organizations and agencies that they represent, the men and women of the Madison Police Department and Dane County Sheriff's Office who selflessly ran into a building not knowing what they were going to encounter. Many of you know this about me, but I started my professional career, if you will, as a public school teacher back in 1997. And I taught public school for 4 years. It was one of the greatest joys of my life before becoming a police officer. And I can tell you what a special place our schools are. With that being said, we owe it to our community to do everything possible to ensure that it's not only a special place, but a safe place as well. And we're going to continue to do that. So we ask for your patience as information is coming in. We will do the best that we can to bring you accurate and timely information, but we want to make sure that our public knows that we're working extremely hard on this particular incident. There are a lot of people involved, and certainly we're going to come together as a community. I'd like to bring up at this time Police Fire Chief Chris Carter.
But some new information about
this is news where police source teach and student among those killed in shooting, scene of crime and justice, police update and school shooting. So news, I'm here live getting this news. Yes. Wow, so sad.
Shimon, thank you so much
Condolences
for
to
the update. And if
the
you were just watching
persons
the screen
or to
and
the
you saw
mothers
that,
and family
caravan
members of
dogs
those who
walk
they have
by, you
lost
thought
in
perhaps
this
that therapy
shooting.
dogs, you would be right,
Wow,
heading there
my
to
God.
the area where we know that family members and kids have been as they are awaiting reunification. Joining us now, we have former FBI profiler Greg McCrary and former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis, and we also have former FBI agent Brianna Fox. Greg, you have the ATF saying it's running trace on the weapon that was used in the school shooting. Tell us a little bit about that, and also sort of what your expectation may be as we await that.
Yes, the trace will be to run the weapon down because they want to find out where that came from. I mean, and chances are good it came from the home. When we have these juveniles that do the school shooting, most often the gun is in the home and they get a hold of it. But we'll find out eventually exactly where that weapon come from. So that's one narrow piece of the investigation that's going on right now.
And I'm curious to get your reaction to what we just heard from Shimon, that officials are still working to conclusively identify the shooter, and they've not yet confirmed whether it's a male or female. Does that surprise you that we're now a couple of hours removed from the shooter being discovered deceased at the school to still not having a clear identification or confirmation of an identification?
Right. Well, they don't want to put out anything prematurely, so they're doubling down. I mean, it could be the shooter was just scooped up and taken off and is in surgery, and they're trying to figure all this out on the go. Chances are they know a lot more than they're letting us know at this point, but they want to double and triple check anything. The last thing they want to do is put out any sort of misinformation.
Yeah, and Ed, we saw accidentally that did happen, of course, with the death toll here. Thankfully, it was revised back down. But as we just heard from Shimon, there were two victims at the school who did not survive. One of them, a teacher. One of them, I'm sorry, did someone say something in my ear? Nope. All right, I heard something there. One was a teacher, one was a student, but there are a number of victims right now who are in surgery, and they have really tough injuries. This is the expectation, right? This is what we have come to learn goes along with these school shootings that have become so prevalent.
No question. This is a very difficult time. There was a slight mistake there in the reporting where too many people were getting involved in the information chain. And there's something called the fog of war, which we all experience in situations like this. The old adage is the first information you get is always wrong. So it's really important to think about the fact that these incidents, the places of importance change as the incident unfolds. So the first place will be at the scene of the shooting. And then there's a period of time where you need to transfer your intelligence gathering and trusted sources into the hospital emergency room and maybe the operating room to get the best information to the commanders that you can when something like this is happening. That's where we are right now. And we don't know how long the emergency room and the operating room is going to be the center of attention. But then we'll go back to the scene, processing the scene. And also one focus is the command center that's set up. And so all of the information is supposed to flow in there. And, things like the identity of the shooter, they're going to be very careful on right now because of the slight mistake that happened. So we may be delayed in getting really good information on that for a while.
Brianna, from your perspective, what do you make of what we're hearing from law enforcement, and how do you envision the next steps of this investigation?
Well, unfortunately, it seems like they know exactly who did it. The next questions are why and how, and this has been covered by the other panelists, but I think it really goes to say, did this juvenile get the gun which was used from home? Or was this something that they were able to seek out? Let's say from stealing it from a vehicle. Was this a stolen weapon? Was this something that they came across accidentally? Was this premeditated? Was this a targeted shooting? All of that is going to come through a lot of, I think, discussions with people that were at the school, family members, friends. And then I think the next big piece is, why did this happen and how could it be prevented? We keep asking this question over and over, and it seems like we get the same kind of answers every single time one of these happens. But learning about what could have been done to make this so it didn't happen, and using that to move forward, both for this community, but for other communities too.
Yeah, Brianna, I think that's so key. Obviously, in the communities where this happened, it's so important for them to know something of the why and to try to maybe make some sense of this. I think ultimately it's hard to ever make sense of this, but trying to understand so that you have some information of value, like you said, that can prevent something like this from happening in the future. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because when we think of some of the things that schools have adopted, whether it is locks in doors, or the way they've changed doors, or the way they've changed procedures. I think, for instance, in the case of the Athens shooting, we actually saw a door lock that was very helpful. We've seen that in other shootings. We've also seen things that, quite frankly, don't work. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Well, it's hard to study a negative, right? So a school shooting that didn't occur. But that being said, we also know that there are a number of these tragedies that have occurred where we have put into place these preventative measures, and it wasn't sufficient to prevent the shooting from occurring. So I think doing more research on that to know which of these things are the most effective. Research tends to suggest over and over and over again that access to guns is the biggest predictor of being able to commit a shooting. And so limiting that access, particularly for kids that are people that are saying they're making threats, they are disgruntled, they have a reason that they would want to undertake this, being extra proactive. A lot of times we hear that this was something that was coming. People heard about it, and a lot of times people didn't say anything. But there are certain measures that seem to be a lot more effective than others, and having that awareness and putting our money and policy towards those versus the less effective things, I think would be a good move forward for our country.
Everyone, please stand by as we gather more information awaiting this press conference scheduled by Madison Police. Much more on our breaking news ahead. Stay with us.
Of all what the other kids have seen, the kids saw this and heard this. I mean, right before Christmas, how tough is that to live? And the parents, where are my kids? Maybe they still don't know if their kid has survived. How tragic can that be?
According to our CNN's Josh Campbell, this is a gun that is pretty common and that is easy to obtain. But the question now exactly is, how did a child, someone who's under the age of 18, obtain that weapon? So according to a source, we understand a 9mm pistol was used in this shooting. Anything beyond this in terms of what, how old the shooter is exactly, or what their gender is, we do not have that information. That information has not yet been released. We also understand that a teacher and a student were killed. Those two, teacher and a student, are the two that have died. We also understand the shooter is dead. And then there are 6 people who were injured, and their injuries ranging from minor to life-threatening. So, of course, the numbers of the deceased could change throughout the day. We are expecting the press conference again from the police chief in about 15 minutes. We also understand that St. Mary's Hospital in Madison, they have been receiving patients from this tragedy, and in fact they have had to close their offices to all other patients because of this. They have created a reunification center for parents. We've also been seeing throughout the day that parents have been reunified with their students here, being taken on buses. The small Christian school here serves anywhere students from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, so a big range, but very young children at this school. Serves about roughly 300 students, and there's about 55 staff members. But we are awaiting that press conference here in about 15 minutes. We're hoping to get more information. There has been confusion throughout the day of the number deceased, but right now, at this hour, we understand that 2 people have been killed, a teacher and a student. The shooter is dead. 6 people are injured, and a 9mm pistol was used by the shooter. Boris, Brianna.
Veronica Miracle, thank you so much for that update. We want to discuss the latest with Democratic Wisconsin State Representative Sheila Stubbs. She's actually set to represent the area where this shooting took place as of the beginning of next year. State Rep, thanks so much for being with us. I wonder what you are hearing from members of your community in the wake of today's shooting.
Well, thank you, Brianna and Boris, for this interview. My heart and my prayers are with the students, with the staff, with the families, and it's with the community of Abundant Life Christian School following this morning's tragic shooting. You know, as a parent myself and as a pastor, this tragedy hit especially close to home for me. So my thoughts are with Pastor Tim Buttery and his congregation in this time of intense worrying and grief. But I am so grateful to our first responders for their quick action and for the continuing help to reunite students and families, because everyone deserves to feel safe in our communities, especially in our schools. And I just heard from my daughter today for the first time, and it's a hard time. We're asking for prayers from all around our nation to please lift up our community at this time.
And you know, it used to be that it would be some time before I think folks would start thinking about how do you look at a policy prescription for dealing with something like this. But Assemblywoman, could you sort of talk a little bit about what you want to see lawmakers do? Is there more to be done in your state, and is there more to be done nationally?
Let me say this. First and foremost, no child should have to fear for their safety during the day of school. especially when we enter this holiday season. My heart breaks for those who have an empty seat at their tables this year. I'm asking to keep the families in this community in your thoughts as we begin to address the aftermath of the situation and come together for healing. For years, I have been a strong advocate for gun safety measures. We see stories like this across our country, and today I am just heartbroken to see my community hurting like this. We have to do so much more to protect our kids and to protect our communities, and something must be done to put an end to senseless violence in our state and in our nation.
To that point, Assemblywoman, I just wonder where you think this conversation and policy prescriptions are headed, seeing as though in recent years efforts to enact some form of gun legislation and limit the amount of guns that are out there to contribute to scenarios like the one we're facing now. We've seen 83 school shootings this year by CNN's count, the most we've seen since CNN kept track of them. I wonder where you think this is going if we haven't really seen action taken on this.
Yes, today I just want to be so respectful to these families that are grieving, that are hurting our community. And I think that everyone who has spoken up, period, across our nation about gun safety, we're going to need everyone's help again. We're going to need people that show up in our state capitol and advocate for the safety of their kids in our schools. We have to just end this senseless violence. And as a legislator who's put forth common sense legislation, I'll continue to work bipartisan in this building, to work with my colleagues, to put together legislation that we want to see passed. Again, enough is enough, and we should not find one more family in this situation that's hurting when there's so much more we could do to prevent this type of situation from happening. But again, today I want to focus on supporting the families and those that are directly affected by this tragedy. And I want our law enforcement officials to answer as many questions specifically around this investigation. But I just want to say this in this interview, that I want to thank Madison Police Chief Dr. Sean Barnes and his team for what they're doing to continue to update us. I'll be learning more at 2:30 today Central Time for the additional briefing and information. But again, right now our community is hurting. Families they don't know what's really happened. We're learning bits and pieces. And so I want you to know, as the new legislator for this upcoming district, that I'm going to do everything I can do to be there for every one of my constituents and support them, but continue to introduce legislation that I believe will make a difference in our state. And I will continue to advocate not only at a state level, but continue to advocate at a federal level. We need everyone to listen. And those that are victims' voices need to be the loudest in the room.
Wisconsin State Representative Sheila Stubbs, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you.